Hi guys, my name is Rheanna from the Davis Food Co-op, and today we're going to be talking about some common cooking oils, some of the different health benefits, best applications for cooking or using the oils. In the beginning, we'll just kind of do a little bit of an overview of some of the most common oils used in cooking, and then later in the video we'll go a little bit more into detail as to why you should use some oils for certain reasons. So starting off with the most common oil for cooking, olive oil. There's some different varieties of olive oil that you'll find when you're shopping at the co-op. One of the most common ones you'll see is extra virgin olive oil. And that type of olive oil is a little bit higher quality and really good for using on salads or any kind of meal when you're not going to be using high heat cooking. If you see olive oils that say light or refined, those are the better olive oils for cooking because those ones have a much higher heat threshold than the extra virgin. On the other hand though, extra virgin offers a lot of different nutrients, phytochemicals that are not found in the light or refined olive oils. So extra virgin is a really great option for health benefits, but you don't want to use it with high heat cooking. The next oil we're going to talk about, which is a really popular one as of recent, is coconut oil. So coconut oil is a really good cooking oil because it has a high heat tolerance. So you can use it for baking, frying, roasting. There are a few different kinds of coconut oil that you'll see when you're shopping. There are some that say refined and there's some that say unrefined. The refined versions, similar to the olive oil, are going to be the better ones for high heat cooking because they'll have a higher heat tolerance. The unrefined versions are going to have a little bit more coconut flavor, a little bit more of the coconut essence, and are really good for cooking and baking or different things that you want that coconut flavor to come out. Whereas the refined version will have more of a bland oil taste. You won't really taste the coconut as much. So it's really good for cooking savory dishes or things that you don't want a strong coconut flavor. The next oil we'll talk about, which is another kind of recent trendy oil, is ghee. So ghee is a type of clarified butter, meaning that it's been cooked down to remove any water. So it's now clarified and it has a much higher heat tolerance. So ghee is great for high heat cooking, it's great for frying and roasting, and it has that nice buttery flavor, but you don't have to worry about burning your butter when you cook with ghee. The next oil that we'll talk about, which is very common and most people probably have it in their pantry, is canola oil. Canola oil is a really common vegetable oil that is really good for cooking, very versatile. It has a mild flavor, so you don't taste it very much. It does have a very decently high heat threshold, and it actually has a similar nutrient profile to olive oil. So canola oil is a good choice when using for high heat cooking and for healthful cooking. Moving over to a little bit more of a unique oil, we have sesame oil. So sesame oil is really good application in different Asian cuisines. It has a really, really nice strong flavor. Sesame is not very good for high heat cooking as it has a low heat tolerance and you'll lose all the good sesame flavor when you cook it too hot. So sesame is good to add at the very end when you're cooking, just for light applications, or even use it raw on cold noodle salads or different things to get that good sesame flavor. And lastly, we'll talk about the most new and coming oil, which is avocado oil. So avocado oil is another really good oil for high heat cooking. It actually has one of the highest heat tolerances of all of the common cooking oils. So it's great for anything. If you're broiling in the oven, avocado oil is a great option. It also has a much more mild flavor than olive oil or coconut oil, so it doesn't impart too much flavors when cooking with it. So olive oil is great for high heat preferences, and if you don't want to have too strong of an oily flavor, it's really nice and mild. So here's a nice general overview of our oils. And if you'd like, we're going to go a little bit more in detail. All right, so before we go into each of these different oils in a little bit more detail, we'll take a minute just to talk about the different types of fat. So there's three different kinds of fat. There's saturated fat, monounsaturated fat, and polyunsaturated fat. And these three different fats all have a little bit different chemical makeup, so your body actually processes them all differently. Monounsaturated fats are known for their health benefits. They increase good cholesterol while decreasing bad cholesterol, and they're highly associated with heart health. They're typically found in avocado, fish, and different nuts. Polyunsaturated fats are also really good for your health, and they also decrease bad cholesterol, just like monounsaturated fats. However, they don't increase the good cholesterol, so they're not quite as beneficial as monounsaturated fats. Both unsaturated fats, though, are where you get your omega-3s, your omega-6s, and are very, very important for health. So it's good to include both poly and monounsaturated fats in your diet. Polyunsaturated fats are found commonly in nuts, like walnuts, and different seeds. Lastly, we have saturated fat. So saturated fat is a little bit different because it is associated with heart problems when it's consumed too much. That being said, saturated fat is still an essential nutrient that our body needs. So you shouldn't cut out all saturated fat. It's just important to be aware of how much you're consuming and make sure to limit it if possible. Saturated fat is commonly found in animal products like dairy and butter. So now that we know a little bit more about our different fats, we'll talk about these different cooking oils and some of their attributes. So starting again with olive oil is a monounsaturated fat. So it's really good for heart health and increasing your good cholesterol and decreasing your bad cholesterol. Olive oil has the monounsaturated fats. You get the best benefits when it's not heated. So as you heat oils, they start to convert to free fatty acids, which actually have a toxicity to them. And so olive oil, when it's extra virgin, that will happen more readily, and you want to be able to not have that happen. So using the refined or the light olive oils will be a much better choice for high heat cooking for that very reason. An interesting thing with olive oil too, what distinguishes it from being extra virgin versus light or another type of olive oil is actually the acid content. So once those fats convert into the free fatty acids that have a little toxicity to them, that actually increases the acidity of the olive oil. And whenever you get extra virgin olive oil, it has less than 1% acidity. So you know that you're gonna have a lot stronger flavors and compounds coming from the fat themselves and not any fatty acids. Interesting little thing on olive oil. Going over to ghee, our clarified butter, a little bit more explanation on what ghee is. It's classified as a saturated fat because it still is a butter. But butter is normally a liquid in fat emulsion where you have lots of liquid droplets. When you clarify butter and cook it down, you reduce and limit all of that water. So actually ghee has a longer shelf life than regular butter because it doesn't have that water that can allow for microbial growth. And it's way better for high heat cooking because that water is actually what allows butter to burn. So ghee won't burn like regular butter. Great for high heat cooking, also great for adding buttery flavor to dishes. Ghee is also concentrated, and so you're not gonna have to use quite as much as you would with your regular butter. So even though it's a saturated fat, it's a really good option because you'll be using a little bit less, and it's really good for high heat cooking. Moving on to canola oil. Canola oil, as I mentioned earlier, has some similar qualities to olive oil. Canola oil is also majority monounsaturated fat. So it's really good for heart health, and it's definitely an oil that's recommended to cook with if you're trying to use those healthier cooking oils. Canola oil, though, has a better high heat tolerance, and so is good for using for heat cooking, whereas olive oil is better for using raw or for low heats. Then, moving to coconut is a unique story. Coconut oil is a saturated fat similar to butter, But it doesn't come from animals like dairy or meat products that also contain saturated fats. Since coconut oil is a plant-saturated fat, it has unique composition. It's composed of medium-chain triglycerides. You might have heard of the term MCT or MCT oil. That's referring to the exact same thing. Usually MCT oils are just concentrated medium-chain triglycerides coming from coconut. Coconut oil naturally contains these medium-chain triglycerides, and your body responds to them in a very unique way. As opposed to regular saturated fat, these medium-chain triglycerides do not circulate in your bloodstream, and they actually just get used directly for energy. So coconut oil is a unique story in that it doesn't have the same health issues associated that butter does. And coconut oil is a great substitute for butter for that very reason. It also has one of the highest heat tolerances. So coconut oil is an all-around really good cooking oil. It is still a saturated fat though, and so although it has these benefits, it should be limited and not used too much because you do want to be aware of how much saturated fat you're consuming. Moving over here to our avocado oil. This one is also a monounsaturated fat like olive and canola oil. Avocado oil has the same story as these two, really good for heart health, increases the good cholesterol, decreases the bad. It also has a much higher heat tolerance than olive, so it's a great option for high heat cooking without having as much flavor added to it. And lastly, sesame oil is actually largely a polyunsaturated oil. So we had a lot of mono here, but sesame is a polyunsaturated oil. Also has heart health benefits and is a good cooking oil. It also has a high antioxidant content, which is kind of unique for these oils, so it's good to use it on low heat or no heat so you don't burn off those antioxidants. Here's a little bit more on the oils. This is an awkward ending. Why am I struggling? One more. I feel like you can I'll just keep it going. Just keep it going. And moving on to a little bit more of a unique oil is sesame oil. So, oh, that's avocado. Oh my God.
No, that's wrong.
It's wrong again. Just one more take on this. Sorry, Rachel.